If you're a successor trustee, one of the first practical things that you may need to do is get a tax ID number for the trust. And this sounds simple. You go online, fill out a form, and get a number and move on. But this is exactly where trustees make mistakes. They apply for an EIN for the estate when they really need one for the trust. They enter the wrong legal name, or maybe they use the wrong address, or worse, they accidentally create multiple EINs for the same trust. And once that happens, banks may refuse to open the account, or tax forms may get issued under the wrong taxpayer, and fixing it with the IRS can become a headache. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the correct order to get a tax ID number for a trust and what information you need before you start, and the key mistakes to avoid so you can open the trust account and move forward with the administration. And let me insert this here. This video is for the do-it-yourselfers. If you work with a lawyer, this is something that they will do for you. And if you're not sure whether you should hire a lawyer or not, then watch the video linked below where I walk through that question and how to decide. So, back to how to get a tax ID number. The IRS issues EINs for free, and if you apply online through the official IRS website, the EIN can usually be issued immediately. So let's start with the most important question. Does the trust actually need its own EIN? Well, if the trust is revocable and the person who created the trust is still alive, the trust usually will use that person's social security number. But after the trust creator dies, the trust may become irrevocable, and then usually it does need its own EIN. So before you head over to the IRS website, first, start by identifying what entity you're administering. Is it the trust or is it a probate estate? Because those are not the same thing. For example, if the assets are titled in the John Smith Revocable Trust dated March 1st, 2015, then you're likely dealing with a trust. But if the assets are passing through probate under John Smith's name individually, then you are likely dealing with the estate of John Smith. Those are different taxpayers because they are different entities. And if you get the EIN for the wrong one, the bank may not be able to match the account title to the tax ID number. So before you apply, look at the asset title. Look at the trust document. Look at what the bank or financial institution is asking for. The EIN needs to match the entity that will hold the assets and report the income. Now, once you know that you're applying for the trust, gather the following information before you start. You'll need the exact legal name of the trust, the original date of the trust, the trustee's name and mailing address, the county and state where the trust is being administered, the name and taxpayer ID for the responsible party, and the reason that you're applying. A quick accuracy note here for the trust. IRS instructions describe the responsible party as the grantor, owner, or trustor. For a decedent estate, it's the executor, administrator, or personal representative, or other fiduciary. So if you're unsure who should be listed, stop and verify before submitting the application. Now let's walk through the form. Most people will use the IRS online EIN application, but the paper form, SS4, follows the same basic information. In box 1, the IRS is asking for the legal name of the entity. For a trust, this is the name of the trust. Use the full legal trust name as shown in the trust document, including the original trust date if that is part of the name. For example, Smith Family Revocable Trust dated March 1st, 2015. Do not shorten it and do not rename it. Do not use the deceased person's individual name unless that is actually the name of the entity that you're applying for. Box 2 is for a trade name, and most trusts do not have a trade name, so this is usually left blank. Box 3 asks for the executor, administrator, trustee, or care of name. For a trust administration after death, this is typically the currently acting successor trustee, the person now administering the trust. Then you'll enter the mailing address. Use the address where the trust correspondence should actually go. In many cases, that is the successor trustee's mailing address, not the deceased person's old address. Next is box 6, which asks for the county and state where the principal business is located. For a trust, this is generally the county and state where the trust is being administered. So in many cases, that's where the acting trustee lives and is managing the trust affairs. Then we get to 7A and 7B, the responsible party section. This is one of the areas of confusion for most trustees. The IRS defines the responsible party as the person who ultimately owns or controls the entity. This usually refers to the grantor, owner, or trustor. So, for many post-death trust administrations, trustees will use the deceased trust creator's name and social security number here, meaning the grantor or the trustor who originally created the trust. So, for example, if mom created the trust and has now passed away, this is often where mom's information would go. Then 7B asks for the social security number or tax identification number associated with that responsible party. Next is 8A. That question asks whether the entity is an LLC, which usually does not apply. Then we get to 9A, which asks for the type of entity. Since we're applying for an EIN for a trust, we'll select trust. And this is another area that confuses people. The trust document may still be titled something like the Smith Family Revocable Trust. But after the trust creator dies, the trust, or at least portions of it, may now be irrevocable for tax and administration purposes, even though the word revocable still appears in the title. So don't rely only on the name of the document. Think about the current legal status of the trust. Then the IRS asks you, why are you applying? For a trust, the reason is commonly that the trust now needs its own EIN for administration. The exact wording may vary depending on whether you're using the online application or Form SS4. But the idea is this: you are not starting a business. You are not creating an LLC. You are getting an EIN for the trust so that the trust can be administered as its own taxpayer. Now, before you hit submit, slow down, check the spelling of the trust name, check the date, check the trustee information, check the responsible party information, check the address. This is not the part to rush through, because if you submit the wrong information, fixing it later can involve contacting the IRS, updating records, or closing out an incorrect EIN. The IRS specifically says to use only one application method for each entity, so you don't receive more than one EIN for the same entity. And that brings me to one of the biggest mistakes to avoid. Do not create duplicate EINs. I've seen trustees come in after trying to handle this themselves, and by the time we review it, there were multiple EINs connected to the same trust. That creates confusion for everyone. So apply once and apply carefully, and make sure that the EIN is for the correct entity. Once the EIN is issued, save the confirmation letter immediately. Then you can provide that EIN to the bank or financial institution. You can open the trust checking account, you can transfer trust funds into that account, and you can begin paying trust expenses. And you can give the EIN to the accountant or tax preparer if a trust tax return is required. And this is why the order matters. First, confirm whether the trust needs an EIN. Second, identify the correct entity. Third, gather the information. Fourth, apply through the official IRS website or Form SS4. Fifth, use the EIN to open the trust account and administer the trust properly. The IRS does not charge a fee for an EIN, so definitely be careful with third-party sites that try to charge you. I'll put the official IRS EIN link and Form SS4 link in the description. And once you have that EIN, the next step is opening the trust bank account the right way. This matters because once you start collecting funds and paying expenses, you need to avoid one of the biggest trustee mistakes, and that is commingling trust money with personal money. So in the next video, I'll show you how to open the trust checking account and manage trust funds correctly. So click here to watch that next.